In 99% of cases, a woman stops respecting and loving a man following the same pattern. At the beginning of the relationship, you feel in control. The woman's behavior is predictable and transparent. She shows care, respect, there's mutual attraction, and no reason for worry. In any unclear or tense situation, if you furrow your brows, she immediately tries to make peace. This sense of control you feel begins to captivate you. And as we know, power can corrupt. I know this from personal experience. Somewhere along the line, I may have overstepped. Instead of acting wisely and thoughtfully, I sometimes reacted too harshly. If something didn't suit me, I'd send a blunt message or distance myself right away. My actions essentially conveyed, "You're nobody here. Behave the way I like, or we're done." Period. I would raise the stakes to the maximum immediately. To be fair, this approach does work, but only up to a point. After a few months or years, when a conflict arises, and the woman makes a real mistake, adrenaline spikes, anger surges, and you respond harshly, uncompromisingly. You might declare a breakup, say you'll never forgive her, or even send her back to her parents while blocking her number. At that moment, you're convinced she'll come crawling back with apologies. But you don't realize the dynamics have shifted. Her emotional and neurochemical responses are no longer the same as they were at the beginning of the relationship. An hour or two passes, but no one comes to apologize. This infuriates you even more. You feel a loss of control and start making even bigger mistakes. The scariest part comes later, when you calm down and begin to realize the relationship is on the brink of collapse. For the first time in your relationship, you start wondering, what if I was actually wrong? It's unusual that she isn't trying to make peace. You begin to doubt yourself, did I really do something wrong? You analyze the situation and think, well, maybe I shouldn't have said that word. And maybe I could have reacted differently here. Eventually, you feel the desire to make things right. You message her, "All right, love, why are we fighting? What did I do to upset you? I'm sorry." And this becomes the turning point in your relationship. Things will never be the same again. Now, you are overwhelmed with guilt, while she feels resentment and injustice. Your elevated oxytocin levels trigger self-reflection and regret. Why did I treat her like that? Meanwhile, her lowered love hormones fuel a buildup of resentment over past events. I won't put up with this anymore. The balance shifts. The king is dethroned. Sure, you might reconcile, but it will be on different terms, and most likely, only temporarily. She will now be more demanding, more prone to taking offense. So the question arises, how can you prevent this? The answer is very simple. I've made a firm decision in life. There's no situation in a relationship that justifies my irritation. How do we usually think? That there are valid reasons for anger and invalid ones. But that's a misconception. Irritation always causes harm and worsens your position. Think about it, when you're angry, you can't respond appropriately, act wisely, or make rational decisions. Worst of all, it's easy to make you look guilty in this state. How many times have I seen situations like this? The wife cheats, kneels, cries, and begs for forgiveness. If the husband starts yelling, insulting, humiliating, or making threats, even the guilty party's feelings of remorse quickly vanish. Do you know what actually works? Creating a contrast between her bad behavior and your dignity. For example, if our goal is to make someone realize their guilt, we need to remain calm and composed. Say something like, "Perhaps it's better for you to leave. Don't forget to take your hairdryer." This isn't about encouraging bad behavior or forgiving infidelity. Of course, if there's infidelity, we end the relationship. But we accompany it with calm and measured actions. In such cases, she'll be consumed by guilt and emotions. Most likely, she'll think, "I'm such a terrible person." The conclusion is simple, even if you're absolutely right, reacting to a woman's mistake with irritation, disrespect, or negativity only works at the beginning of a relationship, when you're everything to her. Over time, it stops being effective. The key is restraint and rationality in your behavior. Unfortunately, people often think that in response to what they perceive as unfair treatment, they need to punish or intimidate. but this is essentially a last resort. It's much more effective to awaken someone's conscience through a contrast in behavior. Throughout the day, a person experiences different emotional states. For example, when you wake up after not getting enough sleep, you feel one way. After breakfast and coffee, your state changes. It's the same with a woman. If she responds coldly, indifferently, or even rudely, it's not always worth confronting her immediately. Sometimes it's more advantageous to create a contrast in behavior. After her emotional state shifts, she might approach you herself and apologize. That's the best scenario. There have been cases where a woman, under stress, perhaps due to lack of sleep from caring for a small child or other challenges, behaves harshly or unkindly. Even though the man doesn't approve of her behavior, he refrains from reacting harshly or destructively. Instead, he acts calmly, as I'm describing now. Over time, perhaps a month or two later, as the woman's emotional state improves, she might reflect on the situation. In such moments, she might say, "I'm sorry, I feel like I wasn't myself all this time, and I've only just realized how I acted." These positive outcomes do happen. But if a man chooses the stance, "Be perfect right now, or I'm leaving," it's unlikely to lead to anything good. This is a very delicate matter, understanding how to act in your specific situation and with your woman. There are no universal solutions. Every situation requires self-analysis, patience, and careful judgment. Why do we write with black or blue ink on white paper? Because the contrast makes the writing immediately visible. Relationships work the same way. Contrast helps us better understand the situation. If a woman reacts in an unusual or inappropriate way, it's not always necessary to ignore her right away. For example, you could simply ask, "Is something bothering you? Or did you not sleep well?" In that moment, you subtly highlight that her behavior seems off or inappropriate, but you do so without aggression or blame. Moreover, you pair this with a display of care. Do you see what I mean? You're not pretending everything is fine, but you're also not attacking her with accusations. In a healthy relationship, the woman might immediately apologize, resolving the situation on the spot. What happens next depends on the common sense of both partners. Sure, there are women with whom this approach won't work, but in such cases, a healthy relationship isn't possible either. That's the key point. If you want even more practical tools for building strong relationships, make sure to subscribe to the channel.